All right, we are live. I'm gonna wait a few seconds while I make sure that StreamYard and YouTube and all that jazz are sealed like they are. So there we go. So welcome one and all to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Thanks everybody for stopping by to this edition of Rapid Fire, where I answer your burning questions or respond to things in chat. Very open forum on Tuesdays, so the only thing I'd ask is please don't preach and please don't quote Bible verses. You might want to prove that your Bible is the Word of God before you quote it at me. It's kind of a waste of time otherwise. Other than that, there are very few rules in that sense. I do appreciate a good conversation with anybody. So, see, there is a goal in chat as always. That's my polite way of asking for money without boring you with asking for money every 5 minutes. So, help keep the streams going. I appreciate that. If we reach that goal, of course, there's a hat waiting, one of four that you can select in the poll, and I will put that on for the rest of the stream. So let's get a roll call. Let's see. Fred was here early. Welcome, Fred. Let's see, we have cranky elder god. Always happy when the elder gods show up. Anne Marie, welcome. Not too far away from me. She's talking about storms, and I know exactly what she's talking about. Martin, welcome. And then we have Evan, or the word currently known as Evan. There you go. There's that. And then Wolf Sinclair. All right. Very good. Very good. But yeah. Hey, Ronald's here as well. Okay. Outstanding. Yeah, I had Ann asked about the storms. The storms came through earlier, but when you live in Michigan, you just kind of wait. The common joke in Michigan is if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, and it's a constantly changing thing. Although I am looking forward to August being over and us heading into fall. Fall's my favorite time of year. So, and for reasons like the temperature starts to drop and the humidity starts to drop and the bright lights begin to stop as thunderstorms and storms. I don't mind thunderstorms. I actually kind of like them. So, but yes, yes, be here or be elsewhere. Yes. Let's see what's going on. Just as a reminder to those of you who are members, you have a couple new emojis. You have the nope emoji. So we got that. Fangs with his boo nope. And you also have a yes emoji now if you're a member of the channel. So you got that going for you. I also replaced the Atheist A with this one with a grumpy fangs. So you can be grumpy anytime you like. And of course, as always, you also have some of the other normal ones that we like are Binky wielding Onion, Morm Onion, and then we also have For Fang's Sake and WTF. I don't know if I've shown this picture to you. I don't know if I'm ever going to make this an emoji, but this is another one of Earl's masterpieces with the kind of glasses wearing psychedelic things. So there's that, jumping back to the 70s. So there you go. I thought when she sent me this, I laughed for a few minutes. So, well, yeah, Fangs is always making an appearance on our channel in some place or form. So, all right. Hey, I respect that people have lives. If you can't stay long, I'm not offended. In fact, I'm not offended by much anymore. Yes. Or cranky. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Somebody using them. Yes, but we have, I think, if I'm reminding myself, yeah, I thought the lava lamp was a nice touch too. I'm not going to be offended. Sorry. I felt the lava lamp was a nice touch too. But yeah, it's just what is Fangs on? Um, yeah, an old anime does. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're getting to that point. I mean, Earl sent me enough artwork that I can play with it. I've got plenty of thumbnail material. Um, as I demonstrated on Saturday, I pulled that actually off a larger piece of artwork. Just cut it out and said, "Hey, this will make a great thumbnail," and it did. And so, yeah, we're having a good time with it. I sent her the too early outline for the book, and so that we're trying to write together, and she's going to illustrate, and I'm going to write, and the misadventures of Fangs with Yahweh. And then I'll leave it open for a sequel for any other god we want to make fun of. But Yahweh is always an easy one and always pisses people off the most. So I don't know. We're weirdos. We're all weirdo here. Reminds you of an old anime. See, I'm watching a little anime right now. I'm going back through my favorite one of my favorite ones, Black Lagoon. So definitely uh, interesting characters, and anime as always. I don't know. Yeah, Black Lagoon. It's like it's set in the '90s, like the early '90s, I think. And so, Fangs doesn't give a damn. Okay, what you do in your private time. He's down with that. Like he's slept with his own gender before too. So Fangs is a fertility god, but there's a fine line between being a fertility god and just being a god of sex. So he's having a fun time. It's a good one. I think the characters are interesting. I have all the MAGA books of that one on my shelf somewhere, but I loved Black Lagoon. Just there's so much life talk about life in that one, because you think, oh, it's just a. The thing about cartoons is they have a way of getting across meaning better than most things. And cartoons were actually originally created for adults, not for children. Little known fact that some of the first cartoons were adult oriented cartoons because it got past the censors. Like you couldn't do things in real live action stuff, so they made cartoons of it. And so yeah, secret government employees, all that stuff. Ranapur is a fictitious city, but it fits Southeast Asia kind of at the time. So, yeah, definitely. He has duplication powers, so he can do whatever he wants and appear in any gender or orientation he wants. In fact, he prefers you conceive him in whatever gender and orientation you are. So he that allows him to nibble on your heart better. So, so there's that. If that's the case, then I do have them all. I think I so, but yes, it's one of my favorites because I love the characters like Rock being caught up in this nonsense, kind of, sort of. He's kind of just pulled along because it's his only option, really, in a lot of ways. You know, Benny as the tech guru who just kind of keeps his head down. Fantastic driver, though, too, for the crew. Dutch is just a great boss, and he is actually the most mysterious character of the lot because you don't really learn a lot about his background and where he came from. You kind of get some of it. And Revy, of course, two hands. So she's the crazy one with her two cutlasses, which are actually pistols. So it's I think the MAGA brings out the philosophy stuff a lot better. So yeah, all original. Yeah, they were propaganda. There was also secretly a bunch of adult cartoons. So it was not cartoons became a kids thing later. So yeah, let fangs nibble on your heart. Yes, he's still doing the MAGA. Yeah, I seem to recall that. But yes, it. I love Black Lagoon. I just find the characters intriguing, the whole situation intriguing. The side characters are intriguing. Sometimes it gets downright hilarious. Like there's good humor in it, and I mean, there is of course a reason why it's an 18 plus rated anime, but it doesn't have a lot to do with sex. It has a lot more to do with the violence of it. So maybe, yeah, definitely philosophy stuff. Yeah, like Rock and Revy get into it a lot because they have very, very different backgrounds. And she calls him on his bullshit all the time. Like he's more of a corpo background and she's more of a street kid. So, yeah. That would be like Club Med. Yeah. But I know the creator of Black Lagoons continues to do MAGA every once in a while. It's like a regular thing, but they only did like 2 seasons of the TV show, but I'm watching it again. Oh, yeah. Yeah, see, that's the thing with Japanese anime. They have different rules as far as what they censor. So it's like that's why I think a lot of people liked it because it was edgy. So I liked it because I like Black Lagoon because I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty deep. So you mean by fun? I mean depressing. Oh, there you go. There you go. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with my entertainment right now. I'm kind of rewatching and I'm rewatching that because in addition to doing my book with the great and wonderful I Killed Earl, I'm also writing some other things and I'm getting some of my inspiration from other places that have often inspired me. I have heard about it, watched a couple episodes. It's something that I'm definitely looking at watching in full. And now I think I'm going to sit down and just like watch the whole thing. I decided, to bite the bullet and subscribe to Crunchyroll and go for that. So there's a lot of stuff I haven't watched. One of my favorite more full length movies was Ghost in the Shell. So that one, cyberpunk stuff definitely gets my attention. So, hey, speaking of the lovely and wonderful Earl, there she is. You are late, but fashionably so, and just like the White Rabbit, it's okay. I was getting some commentary on your psychedelic fangs here, so that's at least the way. Changing it earlier, it took a whole hour. It's exhausting. Okay, I would imagine. Yeah, I mean, um, anything that rabbits can do, fangs can do better. Okay, and so yes, probably super jumping powers that resemble flight, which is what the original Superman flight ability was actually him being able to jump so far that he could. It looked like he was flying, but he was just jumping. So maybe you like the Hulk. There you go. He can jump like that. Um, heightened senses certainly. He can smell things other people can't, hear things other people can't, of course. So I'm sort of kind of a fan of that stuff. I'm very selective with my anime manga. It's like there's a lot of it I think is just the same old. But yeah, I have a few of them that I like. So Ghost in the Shell was one of my favorites for a long time, and I didn't mind that they redid it and kind of spruced it up. It's kind of I felt the same way about the 3 original Star Wars films done back in the 70s and 80s. That when they went back and kind of corrected some of the things that they wish they could have corrected in the original films. I didn't mind that at all. So, walls and decision. Okay, I'm not going to go into details there. Hey, Paul, good to see you. Oh, Triple E, good to see you. Okay. Substituting certain things for equivalent value stuff, which was cool. Yeah. See, I when it comes to my anime, I tend to go dark. Like I want to explore like dark themes. Like what would you do if? Okay. I want to go down that rabbit hole because I think that's also like where my gaming is. Like some of the situations that I find in video games that I like are pretty damn dark. Like Dredge is a good example. When you really consider the darkness of the Fallout series, that's another good example. Skyrim, of course, is in a medieval setting, so that's kind of dark at times. And like now it's Cyberpunk 2077. Boy, is that a dark game with some real challenging shit. so, so you were living voraciously for fangs. Well, that's all expected, definitely. He could. The problem with Fangs is he has actually, unlike many, like Yahweh, actually has a sense of conscience about his powers. He's regretted his decisions because he actually gives a shit sometimes about the general human condition. So the problem is Fangs is not technically a destructive deity like Yahweh. He's more of a trickster, have fun sort of deity. You know, he likes to have a good time. He'd rather party than destroy shit. So it's a there's a lot of things Fangs could do, but Fangs refuses to do because it's just not within his nature. So yeah, I've heard so that Dark Souls is dark. I just haven't done it yet. There's so many games out there now, and I have to be really selective. And I have a tendency to type things like Lovecraftian. You know, Cranky can relate. You know, I like Lovecraftian style games, so like Darkest Dungeon and Dredge went right up my alley just for that reason. So, because life isn't always like smiling fangs. Okay, let's see. I do have one. There you go. There's a smiling fangs. We do have that as an emoji for those of you who remember. So there you go. I don't know. I when I look at dark, I'm looking at like something you wouldn't that becomes horrifying for complete like traditional horror doesn't get me like Jason and all those guys and Nightmare on Elm Street. That I just have never found that appealing. Um, it's when a character discovers something truly horrifying that is nothing like that, and there's nothing you can damn do about it. I think that's why I like Lovecraftian horror so much because when you read Lovecraft, you're thinking to yourself, well, what the hell are you going to do about that? And the answer is nothing, not a damn thing. If, if Cthulhu wants to sit out in the middle of the ocean and sleep there for the next thousands of years and eat the brains of thousands of humans, what the hell are you going to do? Nothing, not a damn thing. And that's the horror of it is that there's limits to what human beings can actually do. So, is that the old one? Okay. Do you have a new one? The big one? I don't know if you have. Maybe you haven't. See, the problem is keeping up with Earl and her artwork. She's like moving 100 miles an hour, and I'm slow. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know it's the old one. But see, the thing is, I like the old one for this reason. It fits into an emoji style. I could literally do this as an emoji. It would be too busy, I think, but still. Yeah, I so that's the new one. Wow. Okay, here. All right. Hold on. So we'll do that, and we'll make it. There you go. Go and save it and then pull it up. It's amazing how technology has gone so far. All right, this is what Earl sent me as the newest version of this, and I will shrink myself so you can see this better. There you go. Yes, little girl assassin stuff like that gets too dark for me. But like, I think like a good example in Cyberpunk 2077 is like the first mission. Like you come across these scavs, and the first thing that's greeted to you with the scavs is this woman with her eyes missing and her chest torn out of her because they took her cybernetic implants. Like it's like, ew. And that's like, oh crap, this is the kind of game this is going to be. All right, fair enough. So yes, whale citizens, all that stuff. Yeah, I know. I mean, this is this is great stuff. Always great stuff. But yeah, there's just so much in here. When see the thing is when Fangs does drugs, he gets the full effect apparently. Yeah, time travel can't be interesting if it's done right. Elven something, yes. Yes, yeah, one-dimensional characters are kind of boring. I prefer multi-dimensions in my characters. Yeah, there's a lot of hidden gems in here. You just have to. I could spend the thing with you, Earls. I could spend like hours staring at your artwork, finding all the hidden gems, and probably still not filing them all. Your artistic mind tends to go places that are hard to follow for everybody else, but that's a good thing. That's why I like it. So yeah, definitely getting rave reviews from your fans. So there you go. Yeah, I can imagine like everything has to be inside a bubble, so you have to figure that out and then make space for it. And so I have to ask you, is Fangs taking a trip on acid or is he just in the bathtub? At this point. Yes, there you go. And when Fangs does drugs, drugs get high. Outstanding BS and welcome. Oh my gosh. I'm just saying. Oh, that's probably the most excellent thing about Fangs and drugs I could possibly have said. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people like Death Note. I have actually not watched that one. It's like I say, there's a lot of things I would love to watch, but if I start watching TV, I turn into a vegetable. So I have to be very, very selective about what I do. And I'm trying to, you know, trying not to just be entertained anymore. I'm trying to actually write something that's entertaining. So do something that's entertaining. So it's not good for escapism. Okay, fair enough. I'll remember that. Are your apartments that way too? Yes, wins the internet today for that comment. Yes. Drugs get high. Okay, we're going to let you win the internet today, BS. Thanks for all the assertions without evidence. It's always entertaining when theists do this because I've been hearing that the Russians in the Soviet Union forum and following have been waiting. They can't even beat the Ukraine outright. What the hell are they going to do with the U.S.? That just doesn't even make sense. Why is there only 144,000 sealed? That seems kind of elitist to me on the Mormon Church's part. And quite frankly, which Lord? Lord Odin, Lord Jesus? Which one do you like? That says nothing, proves nothing. It's just you babbling. So, that's not interested discussion starters, by the way. It's preaching. Don't do it again. um, yeah, this is the kind of thing. Like, I like it when the good guys win, but I absolutely love it when it's like a gray character that's the good guy and they win at an incredible cost to themselves. Like, you'd think they'd be totally selfish, but they flip on the selfishness and do something right. I love dynamic good characters that grow, okay, throughout the story. Like, and that's true for my games that I play too. Like, you start off as a nobody, and slowly by the end of it, you grow. Sometimes there's a grind in that. So, we got a live one. Okay. All right. Lots of wild stuff from friends and local artists have collected that included my own work. Oh, okay. I I don't know. JW's Mormons. It's all the same to me. To be honest, Blossom, I don't know what's going on with most of these people. The 144,000, if you read the book of Revelation, is Jewish people. It's not American Gentiles. Okay, it's like they're of the tribe of Judah. They are the tribe of Benjamin. On and on the list goes in the book of Revelation. It's Jews. Okay, and so no cult in America, JW or Mormon, can claim to be that. Okay, that's just crap. Okay, so it's like, okay, no, anything I'm going to do involves marinara sauce. Okay, there you go. Dragon Ball Z hasn't interested me. I loved Blade Runner. Altered Carbon I've heard about, but I haven't watched yet or seen. But I was a big Blade Runner fan when I was younger. That world is very interesting. Um, the replicant issue has always been an issue, and the thing with current human inventions like AI is how close are we getting to that being a reality, where you can create an artificial person. You know, I think we're getting close. Oh, it didn't. It wasn't good. Okay. Well, see, I always watch things myself. 144. Yeah. Yeah, it's male versions from the 12 tribes of Israel. So all the ones that want to claim it's them, yeah, sorry, you need to read the Bible better. So it kind of says something right there. I am in I thanks, because I'm into narrative. I want a good story. I don't good character development, good stories. That's what drive me, and that's kind of it's where I am with my own book here with Fangs. Is I've fleshed, we've all fleshed out the character of Fangs, and you guys have helped me with that quite a bit. It's the other characters I'm now trying to focus on, like Yahweh himself. I'm getting a lot of inspiration from Dan Barker's book on that one. So that one may not be too hard, but I'm adding other characters like the biblical characters, like Noah. What was Noah like when Fangs was around? What was Abraham like when Fangs was around? It's like, it's coming to those conclusions. Who is Moses? There's a part that, like, Yahweh's old consort goddess Asherah plays, so I want to develop her character. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm trying to do right now as far as, okay, what are these people like? And so I'm actually being forced to read the Bible again. Thanks for that, by the way. So I feel like a replicant too. I actually identified with the replicant at the end scene with Harrison Ford, his version. Oh my God, what a tear-jerking scene in a science fiction movie. So diamonds are altered carbon. Okay, there we go. Yeah, me and Earl have decided to collab. It's an adult book written in a looking more like a children's book style. So we'll see. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to combine my words and her illustrations. So we'll see. Hopefully published next year. We kind of set a goal into July next year. So, but I've got the outline for it. I'm starting to work on what I call taking each chapter and giving it a paragraph synopsis, and then I can work with that. And the stories are going to be tied together. There is a kind of an overall plot to the whole thing. So, but it's the misadventures of Fangs and Yahweh. So I'm using my knowledge of the Bible and theology to good use again. So yes, and hopefully we'll get it out there. So, but yeah, there's consequently though there's certain artwork and certain stuff, stories of Fangs, that I'm not going to publish on this channel. They're going to be kept for the book. So, but we'll give you teasers and hints and stuff like that. So I think they would all fear an angry Fangs. I think that's really what it's about, Anne Marie. It's like I want to illustrate the absurdity of the idea of gods in the first place, and Fangs is a good way to do that. I love Fangs. As a character, it's great. Oh, Taco. Oh, man. While doing research in an attempt to mock true God. I don't think that's going to happen with me. It might be a legendary team up. We'll see. I love Earl's artwork. And when I sent her the outline, she laughed. So I guess that's a positive. You like nostalgia because your childhoods are fucked up. Oh, guess what? Yeah, I mean, I really hate to get generational here, but the boomers have fucked a lot of us over. Because I don't remember really being raised per se so much as oversaw. Like my parents cared that I got home at a certain hour and that I was alive and that I didn't do anything stupid that they would be embarrassed for. I can't say they didn't love me. They did. They both loved me very much, but I wouldn't say that they were helicopter parents. Well, what kind of parents do those people make? Like, it's interesting that Generation X parents spend a lot more time with their kids than their parents did. So, but at the same time, I don't know. There's a kind of overlapping generational thing of selfishness that kind of crept in. So I don't know. I don't like, on one hand, I don't like the generational thing. On the other hand, I get why people do it for a way of contextualizing stuff. So, but yeah. Like a larger project, paragraphs in a good way. Yeah, it's what I'm doing is synopsing the chapter and then I'll think about it. I've got like each story is going to kind of hang on its own, but it's going to have this thread woven through all of them, and I got to figure out what that thread exactly is. Childlike and reminiscent. Yeah, we do that too. I don't know. I don't collect things as much. They ruined everything. I don't know. My parents were pretty good people, and they weren't all that selfish. But then again, my mother is technically silent generation, and my dad was like beginning of the boomers. So yeah, we've all had fucked up childhoods. There's been a lot of it. Yeah, you were feral too. Like I was an only child, and so I guess I got a lot more scrutiny by my parents than probably like some of the other kids in my neighborhood. They had like 5 kids in their family, so their parents couldn't scrutinize all of them, and a lot of them would sneak under the radar shit, and I couldn't do that. Like, I mean, I can't point to a brother or sister. Hey, they did it, not me. I can't throw anybody under the bus. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's like parents. Like I was an early Gen X, so 1969 is kind of early for Gen X. So, and then boomers continue to have kids way into you know well into the 90s. So, yeah, it's one of those things. So it's kind of fun, but yeah, you don't like you due to reasons. Give some fun mass. Did it miss all the fun? Elf and Lied was dark. I started that and it was pretty dark. Yeah, parents are great, but my mom was a Democrat. My dad is not registered, but he hated W and can't stand Trump. Yeah, that's starting to become a common thing with Republicans. They're starting to not stand Trump too much. He got blamed for everything, being the oldest of six. Yeah, try being an only kid. If something goes wrong in the house. That's why I made sure I had a dog. I think so. I like my daughter is working on her sixth child, and I'm happy to have the grandkids, but her reasoning isn't really religious. It's like she's always wanted to have a large number of kids. She loves kids, and so it's like she's. It's actually kind of lines up with who she is as a person. But there are other people in religion that have a lot of kids because they think that's doing God a service. Like be fruitful and multiply as a command, so they're following the command. And so I think that with sensible Christian religious types, that kind of runs into their head, and they do have a few more kids than probably more normal. But I don't want to generalize too much because I know there's some. So there's that. Yeah, elder millennial. Yeah, I can see that. And my dad, truck driver, mostly local, but there were stretches that I'd be at a friend's house in middle school or home alone. Yeah, me too. Like my parents both worked, um, which meant I had a very comfortable childhood financially. Like I never really needed anything. Um, but at the same time, I lost track of the days that I'd come home from work or from school, middle school and high school, and nobody's there. So your middle kid for stealing, doing dumb shenanigans. I'm crying out dead for head pats. Well, we give you a lot of head pats around here, so we'll adopt you. We'll adopt you, Earl, and give you head pats. I like the Dugars. Yeah, I think the thing with the Dugars is it's very much a religious thing. Like it's not just the dude either. Like she genuinely believes she's doing God a service by popping out kids. So, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's the Dugars kind of frighten me because there's actually other families besides them. They're just the only ones that got on television. But there's like I know a pastor around here. He's like him and his wife are too old to have kids now, but he had been former Amish, and I think they stopped at 14 kids. They had like 14 kids, so and the youngest of them is now leaving the house, and several of them have walked away from the faith, and others have stuck with it. So, yes, pat Ike on the head. Yeah, yeah, always. Oh, she adopted us. Okay, well, there's fair. But you have to understand, Fred, that mom then still requires head pats. Okay, you still have to pat her on the head and say thank you. So there you go. I The thing is, Kyle, I think the real problem with people that are like this is they have this apocalyptic view of the world that it's someday going to end. I mean, you got to remember these people also believe that Jesus is coming back any day and is going to take away the righteous, to be safe while God nukes the rest of the planet through multiple means. It's like you're dealing with a group of people that has a eschatology end game that doesn't involve the planet Earth. And so they kind of believe, there's a lot of them that believe they're just creating souls. I had a woman in my church that was like this, one of my Assemblies of God churches. Like, she was just having kids because she was trying to create more souls for God, and that she didn't believe that it was going to last much longer anyway. So she's like trying to get in all the souls for God that he wanted, and then the world would end. You scoop them up when you can. Yeah, it seems that way, I guess. But at the same time, I can't, I don't believe in controlling other people's lives either. So, yeah, there's probably somebody out there saying that shit. You got to remember that voting rights for women aren't very old when you consider history. So it's easy to fall back to stuff that's older and longer. So you have tons of cousins. Okay. Yeah. Saw the religion was subtle control mechanism, so I never understood why they did. Well, there's also a belief, like when I talked to this pastor who has the 14 kids, for him, that was how he was propagating Christianity. Like, he was going to teach his kids how to be good Christian people. And that was his way of evangelism. Like, there's definitely some that believe the way to create more believers is to literally create other humans. I'm, and does that work? I don't think so. I think the problem with modern society and these people that have a lot of kids is, a lot of these kids, you can't monitor your kids all the time. You can't give them all the same time. It's just a practical economic reality. And so some of these kids get a hold of the internet and they start researching things. And so it's something that's been going on forever. Like, this idea that if we raise kids in our traditions and the way of doing things, then that will be propagated. But so yeah, I think that's become the real problem, is for religious people. There's a reason why, when I was growing up, religious people didn't want you to watch television. They didn't want you to listen to radio back in the 30s. Why? Because it offered alternative opinions. There's a reason why a lot of these groups shun technology and the internet and things like that too, because if you get on the internet, you're going to find an alternative opinion. Okay, we can't have that. If you're a religious group, you can't have that. Okay, you just can't. You got to have the stuff. You got to have the information controlled. Okay, and that's the key to indoctrination, is control of information. Like, when I was running a Sunday school, we were very selective on what issues we talked about with, like, older kids and adults, because we knew those issues existed in society, but we wanted to control the narrative. Now, we wouldn't have put it that way. Well, we don't want to subject people to stuff that'll have them lose their faith. We want to protect people's faith. And I look back at it now, what the hell did we think was so fragile about faith that we needed to protect? Or what is so fragile about God and belief in God that you need to protect it? Okay. So there's that aspect. But yeah, a lot of these groups that have a lot of kids, they think it's also, be fruitful, multiply, have dominion over the earth. And they take that to mean having Christian dominion over the earth. So Christian nationalists are very dominion focused. So they're as bad as some of the Islamic stuff I see too. Like, once Islam is in a certain area of the world, they consider that theirs. So yeah, unfortunately, it's been around. When women were given the right to vote in this country in 1920, so 1919 is like the last year that they couldn't vote. It's not that women couldn't vote at all. If they were property owners, they could vote in property owning stuff. But it hasn't been that long when you really think about it. What is that? That's 105 years. And there's always been this movement since it's happened to reverse it. and it's never gone away. Okay, it's never gone away. There's always been somebody out there spouting that one of the great mistakes America made was giving women the right to vote. So there's always been that guy. So I would not go down that route, Alex. I never predicted the end of the world. I would look at I would say, in fact, I would counter these people and say, how do you know when the son doesn't even know? That only the Father knows when he's going to return, and you guys just don't listen to that, and you make these predictions. And I says, you know what? God's going to humble you by making you wrong. And that's the way I would talk back then. And so I never got involved in it. I remember when 88 Reasons that Jesus was going to come back in 1980, I was a 19-year-old kid, and I just laughed at that. Because I'm like, I know the Bible better than the person that wrote this book. So it's like that. So yes. Why people think certain lands, I can see why people think Clinton. Yeah, and it's alarmism that's the problem. It's not diagnosing the problem. I think people, if you sound a gong and scream and yell and throw a tantrum, there's always going to be a certain segment of human society that's going to react negatively to that, regardless of whether the cause is righteous or good or not. Okay. So predictions just aren't accurate, and you're not 100% accurate, and you never will be. So people are strange. We're talking religion, Kyle. There is just no logic to it. Okay. Like if you accept certain religious truths, okay, Kyle, then it just has to make logical sense within those truths. If you believe the world's going to end and that God is waiting for a certain number of people to be saved, and you have to procreate to have more people saved to get to that number, and then when God gets to that number, that's when he's going to return. Then of course, you know, if a woman buys that, she's ready to crank out babies. And if a guy buys that, you know, that's not too hard to get him to do his part. So you have a couple that both think that way. Yeah, they're going to not use birth control, keep cranking out kids. So yeah, when the 19th Amendment was ratified, that's when women got the right to vote again, or for the first time. There's a few offshoot places that had the right to vote before that, but this is the federal level. So, and it made it illegal not to allow women to vote. So that could be. I can't deny it. I mean, Fangs he has ability to transform himself, so he could transform himself into a replicant. I think that's possible. Yeah. The problem every time I look at who Trump has chosen to be in leadership, there's not a single one that isn't somewhat of a religious whack job or conspiracy theorist. So it's kind of hard to say there's anything good in his administration anymore. So it's difficult for me. Of course, as a libertarian, I warn people that giving governmental people too much power has always been a bad idea, but nobody listens to that. Yeah, but I'll remark about this cranky elder God. Is Jesus actually all that good of a person? I've had that argument with people before. Because they're like, I'm waiting for you. Like I saw a meme this week about you MAGA people. Can you show me any teaching of Jesus Christ that Trump is following? And I'm like, well, yeah, hate the outsider because Jesus goes down that road. Little Jesus, meek and mild, is the one responsible for the creation of the doctrine of hell as we know it. It didn't exist until he started doing some of his teachings. You know, when we really look at it, some of Jesus's teachings are pretty effed up. They are. So. I don't know. Evangelistic efforts seem to not be working these days. And you can kind of, I don't want to declare victory at this point over Christian religiosity in the United States, for instance. But I would have to say that when you switch your tone from spreading the good news of the message of Jesus Christ to we got to take over the government to preserve our way of life, I think you've made a nasty switch that kind of indicates you're losing. Like if your ideas were so damn good, why do you have to force them on people? So yeah, I have a problem with that. So, but yes, I don't know if most of the time when I heard about conversions, it was usually somebody went to a church service. Like it's easy evangelism just to invite your friend to church. Okay. And if the pastor always has a salvation message in his routine, then you're covered. So I think a lot of Christians prefer that route because it's easy for them to just invite somebody to church. So is it replicant? Okay. Supposed to a replicant. Society framework has always made sense, but the apocalyptic framework did not. Well, but the apocalyptic framework is the way you keep your people in line. Like the whole heaven and hell be this elite group of people at the center that it the apocalyptic part is what keeps people more devoted. They have to prove themselves to God of being worthy of escaping the apocalypse. Like my preaching when I talked about the end times was always that way. Like what this reminds us of, I would say, is that we need to never be complacent about how close we are to God or how holy we are or something like that. When I was a more fundamentalist holiness preacher, that was definitely my angle. The apocalyptic side of Jesus coming soon, heaven and hell are waiting, it's the carrot and stick that keeps people in line. So, and that's what you use it for. I guess you can believe in anything you want. I prefer to get beyond belief. So it's one of those people. I generally thought I was a good person and should have children to spread goodness. Yeah, not even sure I want kids anymore. Yes. And that's what happens. Like I remember when Shannon Q was on here, I kind of threw a curveball at her when I said, you do realize that some men, for instance, don't like the idea of being the authoritarian head of their home that they're forced into. Like, you know, and I could argue that the women that submit to all this, you know, if you're going to argue that I'm still a part of, you know, that kind of thing and that therefore is upholding misogyny, well, then the women that go along with this are doing the same. So it's like you're not, the fact is a lot of people are very uncomfortable with what Christianity calls men and women to do in a marriage. They're very uncomfortable. I know because they used to come to me for counsel all the time as a pastor. Like I'd have men come to me like, I don't want to be this. And I don't, it doesn't fit me and I'm not comfortable with it. And I said, well, that's what God calls us to do. And I think a lot of people are just better humans. Okay. They're just better humans than that. And that's why they stick with it. They rebel against the Bible because they can see that the Bible isn't them and they can see that the Bible isn't always that it's morally correct up to be. And so they repel from that. And that includes everybody. Like as a man, I was never comfortable being this authoritarian dictator type head of my house. I always tried to listen to my wife and listen to my kids and stuff like that and make sure my decisions were that way. But also having a lot of kids, we stopped at 3. Like, I know it says be fruitful and multiply, but that just seems dumb for us. Yeah. We're a pastor's family and I never know where my next meal is coming from half the time. So it's like, you know, I don't want to do that. So yeah, you get that too, where people discourage you from reading books, going to certain websites. You know, don't listen to this group of people. It's indoctrination to keep you. If your faith is so strong and so truthful, then why would that threaten it? You know, truth doesn't really need to be censored. So yeah, it does. Like really, it's a nihilistic. They don't want to acknowledge that because we have the ultimate hope in living forever with Jesus kind of thing. but really it's kind of a very dark way of looking at the earth. And, I look at the future a little bit more, maybe yes, maybe no now. Like, are we going to be stupid as humans and do something that will help destroy ourselves? In which case, the planet, as George Carlin will say, will continue to go around the sun and not much is going to affect it. True, save the planet kind of thing. It's more about saving the human race from itself. So, yeah. Um, I know a lot of apologists use this, um, you know, to kind of prove that Jesus was deity, but he doesn't actually say that. And I remember when I was talking with an apologist as a Christian once, I pointed that out to him. It doesn't actually say that this means he was God. It just means that he was there with God before time. And that's all it really says. And so, the thing about making Jesus into the part of the Trinity is you have to use a lot of different verses, and this one doesn't cut it all by itself. So if I'm putting myself back in that Christian frame of mind, that's kind of the way it is. And the more I leave this artwork up, the more appropriate it becomes. Fangs, Blade Runners, like I'm hunting rabbits. That's why I'm an anti-theist. I get a lot of pushback on that, but it's like, if I'm going to put the good stuff that people that are religious, and the thing about the good stuff that religious people do, they could do it without the religion. Like, the challenge from Christopher Hitchens back in the day, and I still level that challenge. Name me something good that Christians do that couldn't be done without the religion. Okay. And then, his opposite side, name me a religion, a horrible act in history that, there couldn't possibly be a religious motivation for. And that list gets really short. So, in my opinion, if you balance the scales, the crap that religion does, the false exaggerated claims, the false promises, all that jazz, weighed against the little bit of good it might do, yeah, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Yeah, I think you might be following that one. I used to praise Trump for keeping us out of wars that were none of our business, but I'm not. I'm thinking that he knows that if he's got to rustle up a good war to keep the warmongers rah-rah. The hawks won't be satisfied unless they have one. Yeah, you're right, Evan. Jesus was kind of nasty. Yeah, we always get frustrated with people who are like, Christians need to act more like Christ-like. To me, that they'd be nicer and more welcome. When I'm like, he was kind of nasty. Like, he tells you to hate your family, that you can't follow him unless you hate your family. And they want to conveniently skip that verse all the time. And I'm like, no, you better read The Cost of Discipleship by Jesus a few more times, because he's not nice there. You would absolutely hate it. You're a woman. The one thing I've noticed about theocracies is they tend to be male dominated, and women just become, there. So, yeah, I can't think of one thing that religion has done, Anne Marie, that really benefits women. I really can't think of one. Maybe somebody can come up with them, but I can't see it. Yeah, that's why they do that, Kyle. That's their cheap, easy form of evangelism. I was taught as a minister to teach my people to do that. And then I was also taught to always have a salvation message in every message I preached, especially was in the Assemblies of God. When I got off on my own, I didn't give a damn. I got away from all that and did my own thing. But when I was in the Assemblies of God, they were like, you use your congregation to invite people to church, and then you preach the salvation message from the pulpit. And when people accept it, you disciple them and bring them in. And that was the method of a lot of fundamentalist churches. That's kind of pretty standard in a lot of American churches. So, especially if they really believe the Bible. Yeah. You hate that bullshit? Yeah. Yeah, I never liked it when I was a Christian either. I would say a lot of them over the years have been forced by government. Um, like, there's a lot of controversy to the issue, but I think slavery lasted so long in the United States because a lot of good Christian people believed it was biblical, and so they voted and had their laws follow accordingly. Okay, in the United States, I think a good argument could be made for that, especially in the South. Southern preachers made no shyness about, that slavery was biblical. And at least I think I reacted to one pastor in the South that was at least honest about that in modern day. He's like, yeah, I don't have a problem with slavery because it's biblical. So I'm like, well, at least you're honest. Okay, but there's a lot of those, like men being in dominance over women. We just talked about women just in the United States being given the right to vote in the 1919 to 20 era. Why was that always a problem before? Well, because women are supposed to be subservient to men, so men should be in charge. Like, these religious ideas may take a different form in a secular society, but their origin is religious. Okay. And so then you have the government enforcing those ideas. Okay. And so it goes on. I mean, my poli sci degree can kind of see that. Like, there's a lot of bad ideas that are just bad ideas until the government gets behind them and makes them law. So whenever somebody says there ought to be a law, I kind of cringe. What do you mean by that? Okay, because can this law be misused by the other side? It's like, I don't think politicians in America think very much. Like, I don't. I mean, Trump isn't thinking about how what he's doing could be used by the other side. If he was, he wouldn't do half the shit he's doing. So, like, would he be comfortable 5 years ago with Biden taking over the streets of Washington, D.C.? He'd be decrying it on Twitter, but he does it because he thinks he's right. And so there's no, and there hasn't been this for like 20 years, 20, 30, 40 years, probably since the Cold War started. You can go back there where people don't really think about how a political tool could be used against them. They just want the tool so they can use it. And so religious people do that too. That's why the Christian nationalists are really kind of screwing themselves. Because if they do get what they want, somebody will point out that another religion can use it against them and then they won't want it anymore. So, yeah. Yeah, he's kind of a pompous ass, actually. Yeah, we also sociologically have short memories. Ronald makes a very valid point. We struggle to learn a lesson and then we fail to remember it. So we kind of are that way. And so that's kind of the way it is. See you later, Evan. Have a good one, man. Yeah, well, there you go. Do you have a desire for people to eat your flesh and drink your blood? Well, then that would be like Jesus. Jesus is a copycat, yes. I like to generally made men and women have equal value. Yes. And then it goes to shit because of sin. But then if Jesus has solved the sin problem, why aren't we back to equal value? So, yeah. It's almost like we're selective in what Jesus fixes. You know a lot more about how you created the universe in 7 days. Yeah. But I don't see, that's the thing. I don't think if Jesus existed, his followers had the concept that he was God. Maybe the Son of God concept doesn't indicate that God, he is necessarily God. He's just God's son. Like Zeus has children. That was a well understood concept. Zeus went off and played around with a lot of women and had children. So the idea of being a son of God didn't necessarily make you deity yourself. That was an understanding that a lot of people had. So I don't think the Jews actually would have viewed him as God himself. If you come to my church, like, nice people are automatically assumed to become anti-theist. Yes, I agree. I get that at work too. You're such a nice person. Can't believe you're an atheist. It's like, you should. When you read it over, you'll see how much religion does that shit. Before I lose it. Thanks, Cranky. Appreciate it. The 666 and the money and all that. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Oh, yeah. Good night. I got to actually bug a little bit early too. I'm getting to the point where I want to do some writing. So, and I want to get a little bit of writing in before I go to work. So, but yeah, it's been a fun night. I think we had a few theists try, but I keep doing the same crap. And it's like, quit with your unsubstantiated claims. Give me some evidence for your claims. And so, but I got the joy of revealing the psychedelic fangs today. So, yeah, get your kicks on Route 66. So, but I do have to kind of take off a little bit early myself. So, in another 10 minutes or so. But yeah, I've had a good time. I'm glad to be back on Tuesdays. Last Tuesday was just a mess. So, I'm like, yeah. Don Cody Part 2 of the characters above. Well, here's the thing about the whole idea of Old Testament and New Testament. If you talk to your average Jew, I don't know. I think he left. I think Evan left. But Evan was Jewish. He did not have that concept of Old and New. That is a very Protestant kind of viewpoint, because the Catholics don't. If you really look at Catholic dogma about the scriptures, they don't really have that New Old Testament view either. So that is very, very, very much a Protestant thing. And I don't know. I think older Bibles may not. They certainly don't have it in there. Like it's amazing how much like verse references and chapter titles and titles of books and Old and New Testament concepts are just added later, and they don't mean anything really. So, but yeah. It's okay, Coyote. I appreciate a fellow writer stopping by, trying to do my own. That's kind of why I'm going to knock off a little early, see if I can get a half hour writing in before I go to work. I want to finish my synopsis on each chapter of my Misadventures of Fangs. So, I'm having fun. But I also have a couple other projects too that are more me working on my own. So, yeah. Obey God because you love him and he'd fuck you up. Yes, that honestly, Cranky, that's probably a pretty good synopsis of the two testaments. The Old Testament God, the New Testament does a really good job, or tries to, of changing God from this overbearing asshole into a father figure. And I'm not sure it's an improvement. So I think it was written as a standalone, to be honest. That you can't understand the New Testament without knowing Old Testament stuff, because the people that wrote it knew their Old Testament and they used it. So I would view the Old Testament as a reference work, and they try to say that Old Testament prophecies are fulfilled in the New Testament. So you have to kind of know the context of the Old Testament. It's not like the New Testament. If you view a pyramid, like the Old Testament is the bottom 3/4 of the pyramid, and the tip and top of it is the New Testament. The New Testament would hang in air without it, but the Old Testament would just fine without the New Testament. So I guess that's a better way to put it. So you can read the Old Testament and not have to have the New Testament. You cannot read the New Testament without having the Old. So, symbol for anti-theism. Yeah, I don't know if one exists. Let's make Fangs a symbol for anti-theism. He's a deity that doesn't believe in himself. But I get what you're saying. And a lot of people misunderstand anti-theism too. So you got to have a symbol that, like, I'm not against theists. Okay, I'm against their religion. I'm against their belief, because I think it's a waste of time, and it's something that humanity needs to get past to grow up. I really think religion keeps us childlike in our mentality, and it's my biggest problem with it. Phrase middle finger. Okay, fair enough. I think Gen X has already taken that one though, Cranky. So we got to deal with a symbol that's unique, otherwise it's taken by somebody else. So. So there you go. 100%. But yeah. So yeah, but I am at a point in my life where it's like, if I'm going to make my life mean something, convincing people that religion is bad for us as a humanity, at least some people, would be a good life goal, in my opinion. So the problem is some of these people are members of my family. So it's like, learning how to do this stuff in a way that you're always going to be confrontational, but being politely confrontational and kind of pointing out the missteps of people, that's a difficult task. And the reason why I like the idea of Misadventures of Fangs is I can do it in a fun way without being an ass all the time. I can demonstrate to other people how that works without, like, you're just stupid, let me wring your neck kind of thing. Getting away from that method. Like, I watch a lot of younger atheists. They're very, very confrontational, and I'm just not sure how much good it's doing. So, all right. Well, folks, I'm going to call it a night. I do want to get a little writing done before I chill and relax and then go off to work. So, but thanks everybody for coming to Rapid Fire. Appreciate all of you. May Fangs bless all of your hearts. May he nibble on all your hearts as well. Make sure you circumcise your carrots, just a tip. Nom nom and all of that, all the blessings that we have. So thank you very much for stopping by, folks. Thank you, Cranky, for the donation. Appreciate it. Blessed be Fangs. He nibbled for our sins with sharp. He said, delivered us from corrupted vegetables. May he forever nibble on your heart and grant you everlasting whiskers or wisdom. And as Earl reminds us, please hop towards the like button, subscribe to our benevolent dictator. In the name of all that's fuzzy, unholy, and slightly ridiculous. Nom, 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 nom. Thank you very much, folks. Appreciate all of you. And with that said, always live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure you're giving all your time, money, and energy to yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You will be happier if you do so. And don't waste it on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, folks, thanks for stopping by, and I will definitely catch you all next time.